So that's another good reason for you to do your own checklist. This is, I wouldn't call this an engine start. That's not part of engine
this
start.
This is run up here.
Yeah, that should be
this
pre-takeoff.
This is mag check on both ignition circuits in. So we want to hold the brake.
See, and this tells me that that's probably how Larry does it. He may do it up there on the ramp or in front of the hangar. And if there's never anybody around, that's okay. And in that way you can check that before you taxi all the way down here. You got a problem, now we got to taxi all the way back.
So, not to get off this, but did he just land downwind?
Was he coming this way? I didn't see which way he landed.
It looked like he turned from, I guess I saw him just as he was turning, but...
Might have, yeah.
Huh. Okay, so hold brake from, you want to go up to 4,000 RPM?
Yep. Make sure that you're looking outside as you're doing that we're not moving.
Generator light staying off.
That's close enough there.
So then we have allow drop in case we do mag check, so we go down 1.
Yep.
Back to, so we lost about 100 there, is that right? And then down 2.
Yep.
And up to 1.
Back to both.
Back to both.
So you're checking the right and you're checking the left. So you're always going to go back to both between those two.
And we lost right under 200. I think 300 is the max you want to allow drop. Okay, so then we can throttle back.
Yeah, and you want to check while you're doing all that, you want to check oil pressure and oil temperature, anything else that's on here that's relevant. So EGT is 136 on that, 113 on that one, and the cylinder head temperature is almost 200.
So that all looks good?
Yep.
Okay, so now we're at takeoff. So, ready to taxi to the runway then?
Yep.
So, brake off. And lots of left rudder.
And just taxi up to and hold short of that line, and then we'll do our position report for takeoff before we get on the runway. So right now, look out here on final, and you can turn this way a little bit. That'll let you see underneath of that wing a little bit easier.
It's tough with those trees there.
Yeah, and then make sure there's somebody out there on the base or out here in the downwind, and especially on short final.
But you don't see anybody that direction.
And then check the runway for guys like the guy in that Baron or Piper or whatever that was.
Going the other way. I don't see anybody.
He was taxiing to the runway, but what I'm saying is checking for somebody landing.
Yeah.
Coming the wrong way or coming towards us. Since it's not blowing very hard, it doesn't surprise me to see somebody use every runway available here.
Okay. All right, I don't see anybody.
And our position report is the 4 basic things, where we're at or who we're talking to, Ankeny traffic, CT7, 2 Lima Charlie, departing 36 Ankeny.
So Ankeny traffic, CT4 and 2 Lima Charlie, departing 36 Ankeny?
Yep.
Ankeny traffic, CT, November 4 and 2 Lima Charlie, departing runway 36 Ankeny.
That's it.
All right.
Break off, roll us out onto the center line, and we'll get all lined up before we do anything else. Keep your left hand on that stick all the time, unless you got to do something else with the other hand.
And we want it still forward?
Yeah, at this point. When we start turning into the wind, then it'll be back to neutral. Nobody on the runway. I didn't see anybody out there. We haven't heard anybody on the radio. One last check of the sock, so it looks like we're going to have a little left crosswind. Shouldn't be too bad, though. It looks pretty calm. And we're going to do the takeoff kind of like we did the last one, and it was probably all a blur, but we're going to kind of have a little bit of back pressure, and what we're going to try to do is get the nose wheel off the runway early and then ride a wheelie, and then just let this thing come off the runway. Once it starts to come off the runway, we want to stay fairly close. We don't want to climb out real abruptly because we're going to be really slow.
It felt like to me we climbed out really abruptly last time. Was that not the case? Or?
It wasn't too bad, but we want to make sure that we don't just, since we're trying, I'm having you do something that's part of a soft field, short field scenario.
Okay.
So we're trying to get the nose wheel off the runway early, but that's just good for the nose wheel. It's good habit. It'll help you in the long run. So we're going to try to get this thing to do a wheelie.
Okay.
And then it's going to come off the runway whenever it has enough speed to generate the amount of lift that just lifts the airplane. But if we climb out, if it's trimmed up too much and it wants to climb out, if you just let that happen, it'll get really slow, really fast, and we'll be pointed way up and won't be able to see where you're going.
And we'll lose our speed.
And we'll lose their speed, and then if you aren't paying attention, it'll stall, and that'd be a power-on stall or a departure stall.
And not enough height, not enough attitude to do much about it.
Right. So what we want is, we want it to come off the runway whenever it's ready, but then we want to keep it in ground effect. In other words, we want to keep it within about a wingspan of the runway.
Okay.
And so if you want to, kind of like that guy did on the recording of the takeoff, I couldn't tell if he was actually off the runway or not, but that's real classic air show style. Get this thing up off the runway, but then keep it right there where the wheels are that far off the runway. And then let it pick up as much speed as possible, and then at the end of the runway, they'll jerk back on the stick and climb out really steep. Well, at that point, they've got a lot of airspeed, they can get away with that.
Yeah.
But what we're trying to do is just keep it in ground effect so that the speed comes up before we start climbing away from the runway.
And we want speed at 50?
Yeah.
50, 51.
Yeah, we want to probably climb out at 60 or so. And I think Larry says...
builds at 68 mile an hour. So that's going to be 50 some knots.
I'll help you with the elevator control. I'll help you get the nose wheel off the runway. I'll help you keep it in ground effect. And then when we get to about 50 or 60, we can let it start climbing.
Okay.
And just release the brake, and then a smooth, deliberate. We don't want to jam the throttle all the way forward.
Feels like one of my hardest parts is just keeping it straight, driving it straight on the runway before it even gets.
Look clear down at the end of the runway and look towards that barn, and then kind of try to steer right down the center line.
So keep throttle?
Yep. Keep going all the way to full throttle. About 3 seconds, you should be clear at full throttle. A little more right rudder. Get that nose wheel up right there. A little more right rudder, and then relax that pressure or push forward if you need to. So that's letting the speed come up, and then there's 60. So now we can start climbing.
Okay.
A little more right rudder. Keep the wings level. As you're adding that right rudder, you'll have to do something with the stick to keep the wings level. For the 2-2.
It's hard not to be nervous when you're taking off.
I'm not nervous.
I'm glad you're not.
So we're climbing out about 70. That's about perfect. And let's turn off to the northeast. We'll head out to the practice area. Got that ball in the center? Let's climb up to 3,000. We're at, how high are we right now?
We're at 1,700?
Yep.
So would we want to you go back to 0 flaps now so we can increase speed, or we're staying?
Yeah, you can.
And then the nose is going to drop when I do that?
Yep. I would lower the nose a little bit right now before you bring the flaps up. Get back to 70. and then hang on to the stick when the flaps are coming up. Just try not to let this change.
Okay. So we're at 70, so flaps are 0. Boy, it changes so much when you do that. We increased our speed a lot too, didn't it?
Yep.
So now we're at 2,300.
Yep. That's bringing the flaps up to -6 now. So again, looking outside at the horizon, as you don't look down here, you just know you're going to go 1 notch. That's going to go to -6. But so concentrate looking out here, and don't let that change. It's going to try to change, but your job is to control it with the elevator. And that should give us even more speed.
So we're right at about 90 knots, is that right?
Yep.
So are we slower because we're in a climb? Is that part of the...
Yeah. Yeah, we're coming up on our 3,000, so at about 100 feet shy, you can start lowering the nose a little bit. So
we want to go to 3,000 or 30?
3,000. We'll stop at 3.
So right about here.
So you're changing the picture. Take a snapshot and just hold that new picture, and then look in here. And you can't see it, but the vertical speed helps you to recognize am I still climbing or not.
Yeah.
So we're going to slowly keep climbing the way we are. So lower the nose just a little bit more. That's the new